everything else. All right, I'd like to call this meeting to order. Please rise for the pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Right. So, do we just dive in?
Mayor and Council, I think since the first interview isn't technically scheduled for 6:05, and since Council Member Mock indicated she's running a little late, I think it would be appropriate to wait at a minimum to 6:05
Sure.
and then get started with the first candidate.
Sounds good.
Dead air time?
I was going to say, talk amongst yourselves.
Brent, Aaron, do we have any news on what's going on with the City Hall? An update.
Councilmember Henry, this is a special City Council meeting, so we're limited to only talking about items that are on the agenda, but I'd be happy to give you an update.
Dead air time, is that what you're telling me?
Excuse me, Mayor and Council, if you, just to fill the time, either I can or if Mayor Johnson would like to just go over the process of as far as the questions and the number of candidates, et cetera. So I can take that. Or
Sure, that'd be great.
So tonight the City Council will be interviewing 8 candidates for the vacant City Council position. A scripted list of 8 questions will be read by the City Council. You'll, I assume, be taking turns. We'll break at 7:20 after we finish the last interview of the evening with Ian Hardy at 8. The council can then consider appointment of a new council member at that time. Once that appointment process has been conducted and someone has been appointed, the council will then adjourn, and then prior to the beginning of our next work session, which is Tuesday, January 2nd, we'll be providing the oath of office. Pardon? 22nd. What did I say?
It's the second.
Tuesday, January 22nd, we'll be providing the oath of office for that candidate or appointed council member, and then going right into the work session and then the regular meeting to follow. Any questions?
Do you know what time you anticipate the work session to start? I realize you might not have the full agenda.
We're going to have a pretty meaty agenda, so we'll be starting at 5:30.
Thank you.
Yep.
That's pretty standard. They almost all start at 5:30.
Okay, good to know.
Yeah. Do you guys just want to, I'll do questions 1 and 2. You want to ask questions 3 and 4? Do you want 5 and 6? Sure. Okay. Is that okay to do it that way? Do you want questions 1 and 2? Okay.
I'll take number 7.
Well, no, we're going to give that to Christy. Christy will get 7 and 8.
I would call you tonight, but okay. Yeah.
All right, I have 6:05 by my watch, so Tim, if you want to come on up. Yep, please. You can sit. So we have a list of questions, like Brent said, that we're going to ask you. And I think we'll just jump right in, if that's okay.
Sure.
All right. What is your current level of involvement within the city of Carver?
Well, I'm actually new to Carver.
Okay.
So we moved in late October, and I've always been around the area. I grew up around Excelsior. That was most of my time, Excelsior, Chanhassen. So I've been aware and been around the area all my life. I've been involved with, I guess, doing service for the community. I was in the fire service for 17 years, police reserves for a few years after that. So I've been involved with communities, been familiar with the processes of budgeting and the process of growth in the different communities I've been in. So I wanted to, now that I moved to Carver, I have extra time finally in my life. I'd like to kind of really be involved in the community I'm going to be staying in.
Great, thank you. Can you describe for us your vision for the city of Carver, please?
Well, looking at both the questions, really, I think 2 and 3 kind of tie together. So what I'm kind of looking at is I kind of see the historic Carver, and then I see the new Carver. And the vision really is kind of melding those two together, bringing them together, because there is kind of there is kind of a separation. It'd be nice to kind of make the city kind of the place where people come. I know we have a lot of stuff in Chaska, a lot of stuff you can go out to Waconia, but I just see this downtown, historic district as really a gem. That's something that we could, develop into something where really the city comes into, versus going next door, so to speak. So I'd really look at, that's really where I see is kind of bringing those two together, developing both the new and the old, and then seeing what we can do to meld them together.
Tim, the next question I have is, what are the 3 biggest issues facing the city of Carver that should be given the highest priority by city council?
Well, again, tying that into 2, I think new developments, our new developments are growing like crazy. So we're looking at all this new development that I think is definitely a priority. Bringing new businesses into the community, that's another large priority. The downtown, developing the downtown, the levy certification, and then just kind of the whole fiscal part of that, we need to be really fiscal in doing that, looking at the finances, looking what it's going to take, because as we're doing both of those, we're going to have a lot of improvements and infrastructure that needs to take place. So kind of melding that together to kind of bring us to that, I guess, that Carver for tomorrow.
Thank you. The next question is, how many city council meetings have you attended or watched online in the past 2 years?
So again, I just came to Carver in October, but I've actually looked at probably 3 to 4 online. I've looked at meetings because I want to kind of get updated on where things were and what was going on. Kind of looked at the different information for the election, looked at current process because I was kind of curious about the whole levy in downtown and what's going on in the new developments. So I've kind of used that right now to kind of bring myself a little more into what's going on today in Carver.
This is kind of a twofold question, Tim. Why didn't you run for the city council in the most recent election? And if you are appointed, would you run for re-election in 2020?
So first part, why didn't I run? I wasn't in the city in time to do that. So I didn't have that opportunity. Yeah. And yes, I would definitely run in 2020. I really want to get involved with the city. At the city I plan to stay in for many years to come, and I'd like to be involved in that in whatever position or I could take.
Next question is, with this being a shortened city council term, if appointed, how will you quickly get up to speed on everything that's going on in the city of Carver?
I see two really good avenues to do that. Number one, there is information online. I can look back, I can read. I've looked at some of the council videos, which I've done, but I also have councilmen up there and women. You've got the experience, you know what's going on, and I think that's going to be the quickest ways is to use your history, your background, and what you see, and pull from that.
Thank you.
Well, first, I'd like to apologize for my lateness. Work was having a meltdown, and I got here as soon as I could. So the next question, how would you describe your leadership style?
Well, I would say kind of in a word, I would describe it as fair. What I like to do is I like to hear from both sides. Because what I find that there's always valid points on both sides of a discussion or an argument. And so I like to pull those together and then, when possible, come up with a solution that really satisfies both sides. But I've also had to and understand that sometimes you have to make that hard decision, maybe even that unpopular decision. That's really the best for the community or for the group, and I'm willing to do that also.
Great. City Council normally has work sessions at 5:30, the first and third Mondays of each month, when we have our regular meetings at 7 p.m. on the same night. Oh, I'm sorry, we then have our regular meetings at 7 p.m. on the same night. In addition to an occasional special meeting, council members are also assigned additional meetings and committee assignments where we serve as the Carver City Council liaisons. Do you have any issues with this time commitment?
No, not at all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Tim, we still have a little time. Do you have any questions of us? And no pressure, no, okay. All right. Can I just ask you to come up to the microphone, just because these meetings are videotaped, and there could be folks at home who are hanging on our every words.
Well, I guess, like I said, I kind of have a heart for like the old towns and the old communities, and that's what kind of drew me to Carver. And it's like, maybe just I'd be interested to hear from your point of view what the challenges have been here. I mean, I know the City Hall was a big one. I see the levy out there as something that's substantial. You know, I kind of read and I've kind of got involved with people in the communities, but I'd be interested to hear from you where you see the biggest challenges.
That's a good question.
Excuse me, Mayor, Council, just because of the nature of the public interview process, I wouldn't advise the council to provide perspectives on where the city's going as it relates to the other candidates in the room. I don't think that would provide an equitable process.
Fair enough. Sorry.
Right, no.
Let's get together for coffee sometime.
Yeah, we'll do that.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you so much. All right, so much like with Tim, our next interview is at 6:20 with Eric, so that gives us 7 minutes to talk amongst ourselves. That's mostly you guys.
Mayor and Council, I think as long as the candidate's here, you're more than, you can just keep going unless you have a break when the candidate's not here, ready to go.
Perfect. Then Eric, if you're ready, we are. Okay. All right, we'll get right into it, Eric.
All right.
What is your current level of involvement within the city of Carver?
So my current level involvement, I am in my 20th year as a resident of the city of Carver. My wife and I have raised 3 children in the city of Carver. Prior to that, in March of 2006, I joined the Park and Recreation Board. I was participating on that board until 2011, and then I moved over to the Planning Commission and was part of Planning Commission until December of 2015.
Thank you. Tell us about your vision for the city of Carver.
My vision really is about building a community for life and making sure that that community is vibrant and high quality for future generations. I think that's a balance of housing, services, and the preservation and promotion of our historic community. I want to see jobs and businesses come to Carver. I would love to see Carver host a moderately sized headquarters. And I think for a future vision, we've all, if you've been a resident of this community for a number of years, we watched Eden Prairie and we watched Chanhassen and Chaska be named as top 10 communities in the country. And we probably all took a little pride because we're just down the road from that. I would love to see Carver be named as a top 10 community in the country.
Thank you.
Eric, what are the 3 biggest issues facing the city of Carver that should be given the highest priority by City Council?
Sure. So, managing population and rooftop expansion with infrastructure and utilities. Water has always been a challenge for the city. I think we're always dealing with that. I think I would champion life cycle housing. I was really excited to see Carver Ridge be approved and move forward. I think affordable housing is really important to the city. It's also really difficult. I was the Carver Crossing development brought a lot of debate, and there wasn't any hiding behind a tie-breaking vote to make the recommendation to City Council. I think we have more of those debates coming, but it's important. We need life cycle housing in the community. Commercial and retail development would be the third, but I really kind of think that goes hand in hand with the other 2, being ready for it, in infrastructure, having housing to support the people that will work in those industries and those businesses we bring to the city. I also think we need to go out and get them. Sometimes they come to us. We need to do a good job of going to them and selling our community.
Thank you. The next question is, how many city council meetings have you attended or watched online in the past 2 years?
I have attended 0. However, I do get the monthly newsletter with my utility bill, and I always read those. And that usually, well, I shouldn't say usually, but that often brings me to the city website to review the minutes. I've looked at a couple of the videos, but it's more efficient for me to review the city minutes, and that's what I was used to. So, often.
Eric, why didn't you run for the city council in the most recent election? And if appointed, would you run for re-election in 2020?
Sure. So I think a logical progression for me in my service to the community was to run for city council. I haven't been at an intersection of my personal and professional life that will allow me to dedicate the time to an election, which brings another point. I'm very cognizant that this is an appointment for an elected position. My job is to do the business of the city, and I don't bring with me a platform beyond the betterment of the community. I wasn't elected to do that. However, if I am able to return value to the community in the next 2 years, absolutely, I would run for election.
With this being a shortened city council term, if appointed, how will you quickly get up to speed on everything that is going on in the city of Carver?
Well, I'm going to rely on all of you for that. So it's an interview process of our boards, planning commission, city council members. Anything that is up for deliberation, I would go back and review city minutes. And I think it's a study of the 2040 comprehensive plan. That's really our mission and vision for the city as well.
Thank you.
Eric, how would you describe your leadership style?
Well, I would say I strive to be democratic, not in a political affiliation, but I typically surround myself with people smarter than I am, and I facilitate a conversation, elicit ideas. I look for compromise where that can be made, then make a decision, communicate that decision, and go forward.
Great, thank you. City Council normally has work sessions at 5:30 p.m. the first and third Mondays of the month. We then have our regular meetings at 7 p.m. on that same night. In addition to an occasional special meeting, council members are also assigned additional meetings and committee assignments where we serve as Carver City Council liaisons. Do you have any issues with this time commitment?
So I have the professional latitude to make the time for city meetings, yes. However, in fairness, I think a few of you know that my wife has been ill. That's what prompted me to leave the Planning Commission. However, it was her nudging, pushing me forward to submit my application, and she reminded me none of us know our futures. But it is my intention to fulfill 2 years.
Great, thank you.
Do I have a moment for any additional comment?
Sure.
All right. So I think we have 8 applicants. I would strongly encourage the 7 who don't move forward to submit themselves for open positions on city boards and planning commissions. The city needs people like you to step up and volunteer, so please do so. And I have a recommendation. I think everybody applying tonight deserves the opportunity to be evaluated and serve this position. I have served with Joy McKnight. I relied on her counsel and leadership in the Planning Commission, and I think she would be a great asset to the city. That's all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Charles?
Keep reading, like,
I saw that. We went through, it was like 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I was like, oh, she's got brown. No, she won't. It's a paragraph. Charles, we're running a little bit early, so no pressure, but if you're ready, we can be ready, but
Sitting down, standing up,
everybody's sitting. Make yourself at home.
all right, just standing. Thank you.
let us know when you're ready.
Yep.
Ready?
Okay. So we have a series of questions. We're just going to kind of run through them real quick.
Sure.
Maybe not real quick. What is your current level of involvement within the city of Carver?
I have been helping a lot with the neighbors, moving around the community with their homes, landscaping, helping them move into their homes because I'm in a new area as well. And I've also participated in setting up and attending the night out within our neighborhood. But I'm used to doing a lot more.
Sorry, my pause is only because I'm jotting notes furiously.
Sure. I can provide you guys some notes after we're done if you'd like.
Please describe your vision for the city of Carver.
Vision. I think there needs to be equality. You need to provide a fair and just opportunity and outcomes for the community and interest of all stakeholders. I also believe that it needs to be safe for all people, safe, and they are safe and they feel safe. The health, I feel we're focused on the well-being of the people and our environment that we're in, and make sure with what we're doing with our planning, we're looking at all of that. Vitality, I'm also looking at Carver remaining proud of its heritage and diversity and full life of amenities and activities that are always going on within our community. And connectiveness. I believe that people need to be connected within the community, connected with all parts of the city, and can influence our government as they need to. And then growth. I believe that Carver's character needs to not only be upheld, but more people as it continues to grow, businesses and people are integrated and thrive within a thriving community.
Thank you.
Charles, what are the 3 biggest issues facing the city of Carver that should be given the highest priority by city council?
I believe some of the things that are one of the things I think is we've looked at the schools. I know there was a big call for schools. I've lived right on the border, so I know all the stuff going on here. I know that we've addressed that with the schools, but the other thing is the levy around the city, I think, is first and foremost one of the things that I would like to put a little bit of address to make sure that we're working with the Army Corps of Engineers and getting it certified so we can bring the taxes down. And another one would be just again, growing the city. I think that, it's just, there's other things. I've got ideas. I've watched for the last 21 years how Chaska has grown, participated in a lot of things over there, and there's a lot of ideas that we could be looking at that do not have anything to do with commercial type of things going in, things more such as perhaps putting in and attracting companies that want to put in data centers. That's what Chaska has done to keep their tax base down for all of their residents. And that's something that, I don't know what you guys have been doing here, but I know Amazon was just looking for suitors just recently and heard that they had picked one area within Minnesota, and I don't even know if it was on Chaska's radar. So things like that. I think that need just looking at other alternatives to be able to bring the taxes down.
Thank you. Next question is, how many city council meetings have you attended or watched online in the past 2 years?
7. One on January 7th, more recently December 17th, December 3rd, September 17th, June 4th, March 26th of 2018, and February 5th.
Attended, watched, or a combination?
Watched.
Thank you.
Charles, why didn't you run for the city council position in the most recent election? And, dual question, if appointed, would you run for a re-election in 2020?
That's an easy question to answer. At the time, I had owned property within the city of Carver. I was building the house. I hadn't homesteaded it yet, so I wasn't meeting the requirements of living in it for 30 days. And without hesitation, I would run and fulfill my duties, just continuing on.
Thank you. With this being a shortened city council term, if appointed, how will you quickly get up to speed on everything that's going on within the city?
There's a number of things I think I would do, and I've already been starting to do. I would meet with each one of you to just understand the perspectives that you've been, initiatives that you guys have been working on and would like to see. I would meet with Brent, the city manager, spend some time with him to understand thoroughly the city codes, the statutes, the planning documents, and the budget. Thoroughly understand a strategic comprehensive plan, again, working with Brent and you. And then also identify and interpret how you guys are interpreting the body guidelines that that you're following as a city council. What I'm looking at here is I'm just trying to understand from an International City County Management Association, there's strategic planning books of how you want to run your city and how you're doing things within the city. These are things that I'm familiar with working over at Chaska, but I don't know how you guys are interpreting with what's going on, so I would be able to support the movement that's been going on with that. And then also to currently understand the legal issues of the city manager and thoroughly understand the duty of each of you and the commission members from the perspective of Carver of how it's set up. And then meet with the city clerk, finance director, I don't know, Vicki, just to kind of review the budget, understand, the process, what are the documents, how are they laid out and how to read them, and just understand the bond financing process, and then meet with all of the city directors personally, just so they get a chance to get to know me. I'd also would want to, clearly study the comprehensive plan and the zoning ordinance documents, just so I really understand on, when we're being asked questions with where you're sitting today. And then just understand the emergency management plan. Don't know if we have an emergency manager director, if there's been somebody appointed, or if that's somebody through the county that we rely on. And then tour the facilities of the city. I would like to do that. And then continue to meet with stakeholders and business owners across our city, our community. And then if there's any available training opportunities, like I've attended through the state of Minnesota, through Chaska, I would like to do those things as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Charles, excuse me, how would you describe your leadership style?
That's a really good question. Spent a lot of time going through that in my MBA and really kind of understanding the foundation. I would describe myself as a value-based transformational leader. And how I've been very fortunate to figure this out, just going through a lot of different stress tests and that type of thing, of really understanding who you are in different organizations. But one of the things I've come to learn about myself is my ability to see situations, see a way out, see a way to improve things, make things better, and then work with a team, because that's my profession. I'm a program portfolio manager, to design a collectively strategy and work with implementing that together. So again, I know you can't do these things alone. You have to do them as a team. Again, I believe strongly that things get done more from a team as opposed to an individual. You can have somebody cast vision, but you have to be able to develop the strategy. And I feel that it would be something that I would be working with each of you and other members of our community that want to do certain things and just understand a little bit more. So we're developing a collective solution and designing that solution together. I also know, to answer this question of my leadership style, is what seems to be apparent to some right from the get-go. There can be a quick reaction when somebody's presenting and they want to be able to put something in place. It may not be the right solution. There might be, it might be half-baked. There might be a little bit more needs to be done to it. And much like the layers of an onion, I think you need to peel back the various different layers, be patient, and really understand the problem and get to the heart of the issue, so you know when you're designing collectively the solution that you want to be able to implement, you're doing it together, and you're actually really attacking the right thing. And then finally, to determine the change, it needs to be anchored. I'm a firm believer of just constant communication. I think that it's something that, as a leader, or we as leaders, you really need to be able to continually pound on that and present that in all sorts of formats across in medias that the people can read and understand and hear. That's who I am.
Thank you. All right. The final question. City Council normally has work sessions at 5:30 p.m. the first and third Mondays of each month. We then have our regular meetings at 7 p.m. on the same night. In addition to an occasional special meeting, council members are also assigned additional meetings and committee assignments where we serve as the Carver City Council liaison. Do you have any issues with this time commitment?
I have none whatsoever. I really welcome it.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you all for your time. If you'd like notes, I've got them for you. If you not,
Sure.
you got them?
Sure.
Got 'em. Thank you,
Charles,
Charles.
was there anything that we didn't ask that you want us to know about?
I guess the the big issue is yes, I'm new to the community, but no, I'm not. I grew up in Minnetonka. I've lived on the border of Carver and Chaska for 21 years, and I know everything that's going on around here. Not everything, but, you know, very familiar with a lot of the things and the needs of the community, you know, from safety issues to, you know, the needs to be able to bring some of the levies in place and get the taxes down, and also, you know, this community's, it's small, it's growing. I see it much like Chaska was probably 15 years ago, and I just see, just as things get bordered up, but we're very close to Chaska as opposed to what Chaska was to the city of Eden Prairie. You know, you're starting to see some of those in Chanhassen. They're starting to go up now, and things are going to start to happen a little bit faster here, I think, too. So very well aware of that.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you all for your time.
Brian, if you're ready. All right. Brian, can you please tell us what your current level of involvement with the City of Carver is?
Sure. This appointment would be my first experience being involved directly with the City of Carver. However, I have been a teacher in the district for 16 years, and I've been living in the area, Chaska, Carver for almost 4 years, and Chaska for 10. So being as close as I have been to the community and knowing families that I've had in class that are still here, children that have come back, I feel like I have some really close relationships already with the people within Carver. And I think that from an educational perspective, as our city grows and the schools become a centerpiece that people are looking at as they're moving into the city, and you start looking at homes, and one of the first things you look at besides value is what are the schools like? And I think it would be a value add to have somebody on council that does have experience with the district and can be a liaison between the two. As we have referendums come up, as we have levies that need to pass, new schools that are going to be built, I feel like I can add that piece of value if I were to be appointed.
Thank you. Tell us about your vision for the City of Carver, please.
Sure. I see a community that's on the edge of becoming a city, and it's going to happen fast. And I think that there's some decisions to make on how we want to handle the development. And as far as communities around the area to look at as examples, there's been a lot of them that have been brought up already tonight. And I even go further out and think about cities that have gone through this growth and have come through with their own identity intact. Cities like Hopkins and what they've done with Main Street and the theater that they have. Obviously Chaska and them rejuvenating their downtown area. Water Street and Excelsior. And those are cities, I think, that are examples that have been able to maintain that small town feel, which I think is vital, and it's a huge part of what Carver really is, but also understand that growth is happening, and there's a lot of land for people to move into, and how do we really manage that development? So that vision of what is it really going to look like? Are we going to decide to be more of the bedroom community, or are we going to have Carver as a centerpiece, as a destination? And my vision would be Carver to be a destination.
Thank you.
Brian, the next question is, what are the 3 biggest issues facing the city of Carver that should be given the highest priority by city council?
Sure. I think managing the development that I just mentioned, managing that development by balancing how and where we grow. I also think that issues of assessments, property taxes, water, all of the things that are the fees and the tax base, I think is probably number 1. Because as we have more businesses come in, specifically industrial with Lakeview Industries coming in, how are we going to continue to diversify that tax base to spread out some of the costs that we have? I think that is number 1. Number two would be things like, what current infrastructure do we have? What do we need to repair? What new costs are we going to have coming up? I think that's the second most important. And then third is listening to the people in the community and what do they really want to have happen with Carver. And being a representative for the people that live around me is something that I feel is very important. So I would put that as a priority as well.
How many city council meetings have you attended or watched online in the past 2 years?
I haven't attended any, but I do listen and watch the videos online, read the minutes. I feel like I'm pretty up to speed with the most recent things that have been happening. I had a chance to read the 2040. Well, I didn't read the whole thing, the 2040 comprehensive plan. But
Sorry, Aaron. There's a shot.
it was riveting. But to read through and see what is going on with Carver and to read out that far and see the numbers as big as they get is eye-opening. So looking at the council in the past and the history and some of the things that you guys have decided on and some of the hard decisions that you've made and been able to stand by it, I think is admirable. And that 2040 plan just shows that those decisions are going to have to continue to be made. And I would like to be a part of that. And I think that it also frames some of the decisions Carver is going to have to make, like I mentioned about being a destination or being that bedroom community, is as we grow, what really is the priority. And I would like to be a part of that.
Brian, why didn't you run for the city council position in the most recent election? And if appointed, will you run for re-election in 2020?
Sure. For the most part, I think it was, and listening to some of the things said tonight, there are some really good candidates here. Not feeling like I was qualified because I hadn't lived in the community long enough, like actually lived in Carver, even though I've been a part of the larger community for quite some time. But then in talking about that there was going to be an appointment and getting feedback from family and friends, the seed was really planted to knock me out of the routine of I'm a father of 3 daughters and I have a job, my wife has a job, and really seeing it as an opportunity to serve. And the more that I looked at it from that perspective, the more excited I got about it, and feeling like it is really a place that I can make positive change for a large group of people. And as a teacher, that's all we want to do. That's our job, is to advocate for that positive change. In my case, it's for my students, but if I can make that on a larger scale, so much the better.
Would you run for re-election in 2020?
Absolutely, yeah. If when I take on a commitment, I take it very seriously. And so it's only a 2-year commitment if I were appointed, but I would absolutely run, and hopefully the people of Carver would feel that my job was effective enough to vote me back on.
With this being a shortened city council term, if appointed, how will you quickly get up to speed on everything that's going on within the city?
For sure, meeting with current council as your availability allows, and meeting with the community members that have that are stakeholders. There's a lot of groups out there that have a lot of things to say about where they want Carver to go. So I think listening to them is important. I think in the beginning of the 2 years there would be a lot of that, just to get up to speed with who they are, networking, developing those relationships, and that's where I would start.
Thank you.
Brian, how would you describe your leadership style?
For me, leadership is about 3 things. First of all, it's teamwork. A leader on an island is not a good leader. And it's also about perspective and listening. In education, understanding all sides of an issue. When a student has a problem, whether it be behavioral or academic, talking to everybody who has a stake in that child's success is extremely important, because my perspective of that child is going to be different than their parents or anybody else who knows them. Even their other teachers in the building, they are all different in different classes, especially in middle school where I teach. So I think that ability to take in all those perspectives is extremely important to have a positive outcome, because you can't have your own goal in mind and just expect that that's going to happen. because there's always more to hear. And I think a good leader knows this, so that they listen first and they respond with the team, but then they're also accountable, because you are a leader. And so there's listening, there's taking in all the perspective, but then at the end, a decision has to be made, and that falls on the leader. And so I think that a good leader is also accountable at the end for the good and the bad. If things don't go so well, they have to stand up and say, this is my decision, and we can change it, but I was responsible for it. And if things are good, take responsibility for that too.
Great, thanks. City Council normally has work sessions at 5:30 PM on the first and third Mondays of each month. We then have our meetings, oh my goodness, I'm going to start this long paragraph over. All right, here we go. Yeah, City Council normally has work sessions at 5:30 PM the first and third Mondays of each month. We then have our regular meetings at 7 PM on the same night. In addition to an occasional special meeting, council members are also assigned additional meetings and committee assignments where we serve as the Carver City Council liaison. Do you have any issues with this time commitment?
Absolutely not. And I think, like I mentioned at the beginning, it would probably be more for me as well, just to get up to speed. And as an addition to that, I think being that liaison to the school board and the superintendent and the district and just what the school is looking at doing is a commitment that I would also be willing to make as I'm reporting back to the council.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brian. Joy, you ready?
We don't need a break.
47 minutes into this.
Right. I don't think I've ever sat here. It's
Well,
exciting.
welcome.
You all look lovely.
Joy, what is your current level of involvement in the city of Carver?
Well, as similar to Eric, I'm a 20-year resident of Carver. Probably around the year 2000, I can't remember exactly when, I joined the Planning Commission, and I'm still a member today. I've been chair of the Planning Commission multiple times. I also have been involved in countless task forces around the city, including the Downtown Task Force, I think version 1, City Building Task Force. I've also been involved in the Design Carver 2040 plan, and as part of my role in the Planning Commission, I've also been involved in our comprehensive plan updates that we've been doing over the past 20 years or so.
Tell us about your vision for the city of Carver.
You know, my thought process as being part of the Planning Commission has always been about developing our community. And I take that community piece to mean this is a unique small town with a unique location next to the Minnesota River, with a unique downtown and a unique footprint, if you will, that's relatively small compared to some of the surrounding suburbs. And so I like to think of, when I think of the development within this town, it's about that community, but it's not just about having rows of single-family houses. It's about having life cycle housing. It's about having other amenities like services, businesses, parks, trails, all of those sorts of things. And then also because of the unique location of Carver, I also consider the river to be part of this community. It's such a unique place. I live right near the river. I spend a lot of time on the trails around the river. I think it's really important to preserve that natural beauty that we have.
Thank you.
Joy, what are the 3 biggest issues facing the city of Carver that should be given the highest priority by city council?
First of all, I hate the word issues. I crossed it out on my sheet and I wrote challenges. So obviously Carver's going through a significant amount of residential growth right now, as well as commercial. You know, we don't always get to plan the timing of this growth. We try to set forth with the comprehensive plan the sort of high-level guidance. The timing comes as it comes. But I think one of the biggest challenges for us is to make sure that we can manage and respond to it with our resources that we have, our city staff and our city council, as well as all the resources to support that. So I think that's going to be our #1 challenge, to make sure it goes well. You know, I've been involved in all the development from the Planning Commission. I'm really proud of how this community has developed, and I want to make sure the results are good in the end. So that's number one. I think number two is going to be continuing the work the city has been doing on the levee. That's one of the biggest impacts to our downtown, not just the residences, but the businesses and that sort of unique sense of community in our downtown, and protecting it with the levee and helping to reduce some of the flood insurance and other impacts that we have today. So that's number two. And number three, I think, is with all of these rooftops that are coming to Carver, I think Carver's going to start to become bigger on the map when it comes to businesses and services. And so I think it's going to be important for the city to remain engaged with the business community and try to continue to attract businesses.
Next question is, how many city council meetings have you attended or watched online in the past 2 years?
I don't think I've attended any in the last 2 years. I think the last city council meeting I attended was the one on Carver Crossing, which is probably more than 2 years ago, because I wanted to see how it ended up, being on the Planning Commission at the time. But I always read the packets and check out things that are going on the commission's agenda, and if there's something that I want to kind of see through fruition, I'll read the meeting minutes as well, especially if it was Planning Commission items I was interested in.
Why didn't you run for the city council position in the recent election? And two, if appointed, would you run for a re-election in 2020?
So, really good question. So, I really enjoy my position on the Planning Commission. I'm very passionate about the city and being involved in the city, and the Planning Commission meetings once a month has seemed very doable over the past 18 years or so. And I have been concerned with my professional life being able to commit to more. And so that was my hesitation from a city council perspective, because there is a bigger time commitment. And I certainly didn't want to do anything half-heartedly. I want to give it the attention it deserves. So that was my hesitation about running. However, with a shortened term, it allows me to try it and see if I can make that commitment. And so this is a trial for me as well. So if I can make it work, and I do have some control over my travel schedule, which is my limiting factor in attending meetings and participating. So I do have some control over it. So if I feel like I can control it over these next 2 years, I would run. I just didn't want to run and not be able to, I didn't be able to commit as much as I'd hoped to.
With this being a shortened city council term, if appointed, how will you quickly get up to speed on everything that's going on within the city?
Well, I feel like I have a little bit of a leg up because I've been on the Planning Commission. I kind of know everything that's going on there. That's not everything that the City Council deals with, obviously. So I feel like I can get up to speed pretty quickly, I think, with city staff. But I think I'd have a pretty quick learning curve, just having lived here, been involved in the Planning Commission, been involved in comprehensive plan, and a lot of the ordinances and things like that. I feel like I have a pretty short learning curve.
Thank you.
How would you describe your leadership style?
So, in my day job, I lead a pretty large organization, and so I'm very accustomed to working at a strategic level and focusing on the what and the why. And I'm also a very passionate leader, so I feel that I can do a pretty good job of communicating the why. Why do we want to do something? Why do we want to go somewhere? Why do we want to get to that goal? And so I don't define the how. So my style is to be more inclusive and open to suggestion and input on the how, and be open to new ideas as long as it fits the what and the why of the strategy where we're trying to head. I'm also very much a process-oriented person and leader, And so I do like understanding the full process of things. The whole planning commission of how something becomes an empty piece of land that's not zoned or zoned agriculture, and how it becomes a commercial building and everything that happens in between. I like to understand those kinds of processes and get into those details as well.
Thank you. Joy?
Yes.
City Council normally has work sessions at 5:30 p.m. on the first and third Mondays of each month. We then have our regular meetings at 7 p.m. on the same night. In addition to an occasional special meeting, council members are also assigned additional meetings and committee assignments where we serve as the Carver City Council liaison. Do you have any issues with the time commitment?
Good on that one. No, I don't have issues with the work session and the regular meetings. I feel like I can attend the majority of those. There will likely be a case by case where I may miss one or two just due to my travel schedule for work. As long as I know as much ahead of time, I can make plans around it from a work perspective. I'm a little concerned about being assigned to other committees and having that additional time as well. I just want to put that out there and be open and honest. I would like to be as committed as I can to the city council and the activities, but I'm a little leery beyond the city council meetings and regular city meetings.
Anything else we should know?
I do want to echo Eric's comments that the city's commissions, Park and Rec, Planning Commission, Heritage, are always looking for great members and great people. Obviously, Lori came from Planning Commission, Courtney, you came from Planning Commission. It's a great way to get to participate in the community and have a voice and get to learn a lot about the city and how the city functions. So I would highly encourage all of you to apply because I know there's lots of openings at the moment. That's about it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mark? I'm good.
I'm fine if
Better buck.
Okay. You guys okay?
What, you haven't watched Hell Dog?
All right. Mark, what is your current level of involvement in the city of Carver?
Excuse me. All four of my boys have participated in Carver baseball program since we've moved to Carver 6 years ago. So I've helped coach my son's baseball and t-ball teams in past seasons. I've coached my son's soccer teams for a number of years for CC United as well. I know that's not in Carver per se, but I've also attended and watched city council meetings online. I try to keep abreast of current news and issues in Carver via the City of Carver website, social media, Chaska Herald, as well as the flyer that comes with the monthly bills and so forth, as well as my wife and neighbors, and they always have a wealth of information of what's going on in the great city of Carver.
Tell us about your vision for the city of Carver, please.
I believe in the 2040 comprehensive plan for Carver. I'd like Carver to continue to grow into a well-developed community, able to offer many services to its residents while also maintaining the historic downtown and small town feel we all love and enjoy. I know that with the current projections for 2040 that we plan on at least doubling the population and tripling the amount of employment. So I envision Carver continuing to grow and expand its services and stores available within the city limits, and I look forward to watching the city continue to grow and maintain the safety and small community feel that we all currently enjoy.
Mark, what are the three biggest issues facing the city of Carver that should be given the highest priority by city council?
After listening to everyone else's answer, I think I should say levy, but I'm going to go with my own because I think that it's definitely important. But I live off Jonathan Carver Parkway, so I would say traffic control right now. I know the growth of the community and residents feeling that is happening to some with little attention to traffic control. I know that you guys have comprehensive studies and so forth, and working on that, but I know the surrounding neighborhoods many feel disrupted, and just making sure we have that communication piece in terms of what's going on, in terms of, I know that you not everybody reads what they're supposed to, so whatever that platform is in terms of making sure that everyone's informed on what's taking place and what to expect in the future and so forth. I mean, I know that we live in the Spring Creek developments, and just even like the road closure for a couple weeks, people are up in arms and so forth. So just kind of that constant communication piece in terms of letting people know what's going on with traffic, and especially with that particular stretch of road. It's like an Indy 500 to drive that stretch. With regard, I put number 2 as water. I mean, I know the cost of the new sewer and water systems being discussed. I call it liquid gold, but the current complaints of many residents regarding discolored water that smells and the current cost of water all are things that I know that you guys are working on and so forth. And I know Brett is aware of them as well. And then third, I would say the continued building of new residential homes and continue to getting more businesses to Carver, and just kind of making sure that I know we're wanting to leap forward and get as many businesses here as possible, but also I feel like we have the ability to be a little choosy in terms of, I know we're begging for people to come here, but at the same time, I think we have the ability to sit there and make sure that we're having strong, unique businesses coming to Carver rather than just run-of-the-mill that you can find anywhere. Also, also keeping housing affordable based on kind of all demographics within the city limits.
Next question is, how many city council meetings have you attended or watched online in the past 2 years?
I've now that you mentioned about the Carver Crossing, I don't know when that happened, but I've personally attended 2 or 3 city council meetings in the past, but I've watched several of the meetings online, as well as read the packets and notes from the past.
Mark,
Yes.
why didn't you run for the city council in the most recent election? And if appointed, would you run for re-election in 2020?
At the time, I was in the middle of a semester of law school that had a heavy demand on my time in the evening. At the time, I was going to class 3 to 4 times a week, so I did not think I had the time or energy and or ability to effectively run a campaign, and let alone hold a position like that. Currently, I am dwindling down. I have 1 year left, so you get to kind of ease up on the throttle a little bit in terms of law school and whatnot. So I have less demand at night, so I feel like this would be a wonderful opportunity just to give it a try. And yes, I would. We'll be done with law school 2 years from now. So, and I would certainly love to run for re-election.
With this being a shortened city council term, if appointed, how will you quickly get up to speed on everything that's going on within the city?
With keeping up with city council meetings online and so forth, I feel pretty confident in terms of most of the issues that the city is that are impacting the city right now. But for those that I'm unfamiliar with, I will rely on looking at meeting notes, speaking to the council members, and in reading the packets prior to the meeting. I heard that, and Cindy Monroe was preaching that, to making sure that you're prepared ahead of time. But, and then spending time listening to those in the community.
Thank you, Mark.
Mark, how would you describe your leadership style?
I'm a very collaborative person by nature, and willing to listen as much as I speak. So I like to challenge people to go beyond their initial thoughts about a topic and to look at the big picture. So I've had a kind of a wide-ranging career. I've worked as a manager for 15 years in various restaurants as a general manager. So worked with budgets and revenues and hired and fired and so forth, and being able to work with establishing relationship with customers and so forth. So I was in charge of many details of what that job entailed. And now currently, I've been a paralegal for 6 years, and am currently a law student. So I've learned to take others' thoughts into consideration and expect the unexpected when it comes to kind of making sure that you're have the most information in order to make the best and most sound judgments. I think it's imperative to sit there and make sure everyone's voice is heard and know the facts before you make a decision. So I enjoy being part of a team, and I feel like a good leader needs to be collaborative and have strong communication skills and make sure that they know what's going on rather than have their own agenda coming in the door. And just, I know that when you listen to the residents of Carver, you take that into consideration, and definitely make sure that you have all the information prior to making an informed decision on whatever topic we're covering.
Thank you. City Council normally has work sessions at 5:30 p.m. the first and third Mondays of each month. We then have our regular meetings at 7 p.m. on the same night. In addition to an occasional special meeting, council members are also assigned additional meetings and committee assignments where we serve as the Carver City Council liaison. Do you have any issues with this time commitment?
No, I do not.
Thank you.
Is there anything else we should know?
I just wanted to echo Eric and Joy's previous statements about I'm super impressed at all the candidates that are here tonight, and if it's not me, that's okay. But I feel confident that whoever is chosen tonight will be an excellent representative for Carver. So I was just really impressed by everyone's background and everything else. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Thanks,
you.
Mark. You ready, Reed? Yeah. Okay.
So I may throw a monkey wrench in here. Before I got Brent's agenda, I had written out an introductory statement. So if you wouldn't mind if I read that first, just to get a feel and answer, or do you prefer I wait till the end?
I'm fine if you go ahead
Sure.
and start with that.
Hello, members of the Carver City Council. My name is Reed Balch. I have been a resident of Carver for 10 years. I grew up just down the road in Chanhassen. My wife and I were ready to raise a family. We started looking for a new home. With a good school district that was close to our family. My parents live in Chanhassen in the same house I grew up in. My wife's family lives outside Mare. We started to narrow down our choices to a new or an existing home in Carver. We found a new home development with a lot that had a ton of trees in the backyard, and we were hooked. Later on, we found out that the city of Carver had actually created a city ordinance that created a buffer around wetlands and these trees, and they were there specifically because the council was proactively thinking and preserving these trees, and that is the reason I'm a resident of Carver today. I wanted to ensure future residents of all ages and incomes have a good place to live. If selected to fill the vacancy, I will be a positive advocate for future and current residents. My goal as a city council member would be to help the city manage the coming growth and development. Thank you.
Thank you. What is your current level of involvement within the city of Carver, Reed?
I see this as my opportunity to get involved in the city of Carver. We spent most of our time enjoying the parks and activities. We love Steamboat Days. My daughter looks forward to the fireworks every year. You do a great job with the Carver Lions Club, Christy. And then also we had a great time this year at the Carver Fire Department open house. My daughter was super excited. She won one of the t-shirts, and I actually met you, Christy. You probably don't remember, with one of the other hundreds of people coming by to say hi. So yeah, and I do see this as an opportunity to give back.
Great. Tell us about your vision for the city of Carver.
I see the future Carver as mostly residential city with affordable housing for everyone. I feel Carver will need to evolve into a more economically diverse city. We have a great commercial corridor with the 212 freeway, the Jonathan Carver Parkway, and the Design Carver plan. But I also want to be realistic, and we can't force the market. Carver has a lot of great opportunities, and I feel that we should take advantage of that. We have the land, right? If you look at, I actually print out some statistics. Where do we have? We have tons of land in the existing Carver, and our current land use is very low, right? So if a new company or new builder wants to develop houses in the great Minnesota Twin Cities area, Carver is a great place, and we have that advantage. So we can be picky. We can, be diligent and make sure we protect those trees and protect the environment and pick the best of the developments. Secondly, we continue to have a great and historic downtown, right? It's fun, like I said, Steamboat Days. We enjoy coming down and seeing all the great old houses, and my wife and I love to go down to Stillwater for anniversary where we got married, and Carver reminds me of that, right? The great old houses, the mansions, and we have so many places in the historic register. I think that's a key thing to keep in mind.
Was there anything else to add for that question?
Number 2, no.
Thanks.
Sorry.
The next question is, what are the 3 biggest issues facing the city of Carver that should be given the highest priority by the city council?
It's basically the future development. So we have, traffic, water issues, businesses and commercial development. The Lakeview Industries is a great start. Carver Dental, more professional, diversifying the different options, for residents and also as tax, right? I mean, and again, back to my earlier, can't force the market, right? We want Carver to be a great place. Fleet Farm is another great example of a unique thing. It's super convenient. I love it running, get tools there all the time or forget stuff running. Just that kind of convenience for the residents. And again, the market will dictate what we are able to do, and also we can also nudge the market in the direction we want. And then also the growing the city staff and services proactively. Current and future development. At my job, we have projects that are very, very long range. Our company, I make microchips, so we have 2 or 3 year development cycles. And one thing I've learned is making small changes early on has a huge, tremendous benefit down the road. So quite frankly, raising taxes a little earlier so that it's smaller and you can gradually spread out the costs for a new water tower, a new fire station, any of these structures, right? So it's not a big hit. I have some statistics here if I can remember where I put them, right? So we have our population growth targets, right? In 2010, we had 3,274, right? And then it's gone to 4,000, and by 2020, it's projected over 6,300, and then short 10 years later in 2030, 10,000 people, right? I mean, things are going to need massive infrastructure improvements. And to expect to, finance that in a short time, be proactive, start trying to get the projections, then also have the flexibility in the plan that, maybe these projections are way off. Maybe we have, 10,000 people in 2020, or they're under. When we first moved in, we were building like crazy, and then, of course, the Great Recession happened, and we had, houses that seemed like they were going up forever, and then, 6 months later, there's vacant lots, right? So we have to be diligent and be able to react to the market and keep an eye on the future development. And it's not a gradual, it's fits and starts.
How many city council meetings have you attended or watched online in the last 2 years?
3. So those are all recently, but I will admit that I got most of my information on my Dunn Brothers stop on the way to work from Mike, the former mayor. I actually bumped into Courtney there shortly before the election, and I actually bumped into Glenn this morning, full disclosure. So I feel like I've been, I think that you guys do a great job with the newsletter, keeping the residents informed.
That would be at Citizen Mike Webb.
Citizen Mike Webb, former mayor. I cannot call him former mayor.
Reed, why didn't you run for city council in the most recent election? And 2, if appointed, would you run for re-election in 2020?
Again, full disclosure, I did consider it. Mike tried to get me to run for re-election, for election. Honestly, I was a little intimidated by the election process. When I received the notice about the open position, I felt like it was a second chance. I kind of honestly felt like I missed out. He had talked to, Citizen Mike Webb had talked to me, maybe 2 or 3 weeks before the deadline, and I just wasn't quite ready to make a decision then. And then after it passed, I honestly did regret it a little bit. And then when this opportunity came in, I was very excited for it. And I would run for re-election if appointed to.
Thank you. With this being a shortened city council term, if appointed, how will you quickly get up to speed on everything that's going on within the city?
I'm actually a very quick learner. Like I said, at my job, I have projects that are multi-year and require a lot of reading and documentation. And I actually did read the Carver 2040 plan. I have some of it printed out in front of me. I get up to speed relatively quickly on things. I'm very personable, I think. I'm happy to answer questions, and I love talking to people.
Okay, Reed, how would you describe your leadership style?
I try to lead by example. Luckily, my job involves a lot of collaboration. I often stop by other coworkers' cubes just to check on how they're doing. I enjoy answering questions and tough problems. I also just love talking to people and conversing and striking up friendships. My wife says my wife's a little shyer than I am, but we'd go to parties and I would go talk around and meet anybody, walk up to complete strangers. So I'm very open, very forthcoming, and yeah.
Great, thank you. City Council normally has work sessions at 5:30 p.m. on the first and third Mondays of each month. We then have our regular meetings at 7 p.m. on the same night. In addition to an occasional special meeting, council members are also assigned additional meetings and committee assignments where we serve as the Carver City Council liaison. Do you have any issues with the time commitment?
I have no issues and look forward to giving back to the community.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else we should know, Reed?
I don't want to jinx myself, but if I don't get the position, I am intending to apply for the Planning Commission. I was not sure, but I still want the city council.
Okay, that's fair. Noted, thank you. All right, since I do not think Ian is here, I think we take a break, and we'll resume at, he's scheduled for 8, right? For 8, or as soon as we see him, if he's comfortable with going earlier? Yeah. Right, so, do we need to make a motion to break? All right.
So what happened is they have.
Hey,
Hi,
how are you doing?
good, how are you?
Good. So Ian, we have a list of questions here. We're just going to go through them 1 through 8, and we'll let you add anything else that you want to at the end.
Sounds good.
First question is, can you tell us your current level of involvement with the city of Carver?
My current level of involvement, I've tried to attend most of the open houses that we've had in town for like the Jonathan Carver Parkway open house.
Excuse me, Ian, can you speak in the microphone, please? Thank you.
So open houses for Jonathan Carver Parkway, for the comp plan, as well as like the City Hall open house. I've also attended a couple of city council meetings and the planning commission meeting. And my wife is on the planning commission, so I tend to go through the packets with her and give her my 2 cents on on what may or may not come to mind for me. So,
Thank you. Tell us about your vision for the city of Carver.
well, the city of Carver has this great historic downtown district that is kind of the heart and soul for the community, and I envision that the city kind of takes that as a model going forward, so we maintain that heart and soul and the feel of the small town of Carver, and also take advantage of the river and the national park land that's nearby. We do a great job in this community of focusing on our parks and trails, so taking that into consideration going forward. Yeah. So, and also we've got the great 212 area that can be utilized for commercial development, mixed use, build the tax base up.
Thank you.
What are the 3 biggest issues facing the city of Carver that should be given the highest priority by city council?
A lot of that is going to be tied to the growth that we have in this community. Kind of getting a handle on it, making sure that we're not, outpacing ourselves with the growth that we're planning in accordance with our 2040 comp plan, and to make sure that we incorporate things like parks and trails, and ensure that we focus on the other one would be focusing on the historic downtown, getting levy certified, doing things like streetscaping, things like maybe adding a park downtown. And third, focusing on the future, planning for all of our capital improvement needs, 5, 10 years down the road, even further out, so that we kind of even out the levy increases to make sure that our taxpayers are protected.
The next question is, how many city council meetings have you attended or watched online in the past 2 years?
I've only attended a couple. I've attended a couple of planning commission meetings, and I've watched a good percentage, probably close to half of the council meetings online.
Ian, Why didn't you run for the city council position in the most recent election? And two, if appointed, would you run for re-election in 2020?
I didn't run in this previous election. I've kind of always had a bit of a inclination to run. My father was town chairman and county board member for like 30 years. So, and I'm also a public employee for a different city. So I've got a bit of a inclination for public service. And this opening kind of was the little kick in the butt to get me to dive in.
Would you run for re-election in 22 if appointed?
Provided that I'm effective, and then yeah, absolutely, if I were appointed.
Okay. And with this being a shortened city council term, if appointed, how would you get caught up to speed on everything that's going on in the city?
Like I said, I'm a employee for a different government entity, so I kind of got a basic feel for how city government works. I'm also the city's representative on a couple IT organizations that function similar to the procedures of a city council meeting. So I have basic procedural understanding. And with my wife being on the planning commission, I'm somewhat up to date on the happenings in the town.
Thank you.
Ian, how would you describe your leadership style?
I'm a pretty laid back, listen, take the advice of the experts kind of leader. I'll ask questions. I like to do my own research, and being a public employee, I'm a cheerleader for staff.
Great, thank you. The final question is, City Council normally has work sessions at 5:30 p.m. on the first and third Mondays of each month. We then have our regular meetings at 7 p.m. on the same night. In addition to an occasional special meeting, council members are also assigned additional meetings and committee assignments where we serve as Carver City Council liaison. Do you have any issues with this time commitment?
For the most part, I shouldn't. I do have, the city I work for has its council meetings on the same nights, but I don't think I've ever had to attend the council meetings, and the work sessions are typically the off Mondays, so it shouldn't be an issue.
Okay, thank you.
Is there anything else you want to tell us we didn't ask?
Not that I can think of.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so that brings us to the end of the interviews.
Wow. What a great slate.
Yeah, right?
Yep.
I think I told some of you I will never complain for having to choose between 8 folks. It's going to be a tough decision, but I'm thankful for so many of you putting your hats in the ring. Do you want to lead us off with kind of procedural?
Mayor and council, there really isn't a defined process for this next step. Past practice has been, and when I say past practice, just the one last time that we did this.
The other time.
Was that each kind of council member kind of opined on the review of the candidates, and then kind of through consensus, a candidate was selected. Now they're just a kind of a procedural thing. If at some point the council kind of declares a stalemate, because obviously we have an even number of council members, if it becomes 2-2, and you can't reach consensus on a candidate, then the mayor is afforded, per statute, the ability to appoint a candidate of her choice in this instance. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? No? So I am comfortable if we want to kind of go down the line and talk about, do we need a second to gather our thoughts? Or are we ready to kind of go down the line and talk about
We can,
who we like? Go ahead.
I do remember, because I was sitting in that seat 4 years ago, it seemed efficient where it was the council and the mayor came to an agreement, kind of a top half candidates, or I don't know that it was a certain number. I don't know if that would be helpful, just to narrow down. Like top 4, top 2, top 3, I don't.
Right,
That's what I recall.
think, Courtney, you can lead on what you think is going to be appropriate. I think maybe going through maybe some of our top choices and why might be efficient, if you are okay with that.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. Do you want to
Sure.
take the lead to totally put you on the spot?
Sure. Well, first of all, I would like to say to everyone who applied tonight and came out to interview that I want to say thank you for doing this. It's nerve-wracking and uncomfortable, and the fact that you have come out to show your commitment to the community of Carver and that you have a want and desire to serve, I think is admirable. I'm sorry that we can't choose every single one of you, but please, if it isn't your time tonight, find another capacity. There's many ways to serve the city. So I just wanted to start off with that level of appreciation, and I don't want to speak for the rest of the council, but I'm sure they will have their own comments on being appreciative towards that as well. With that, I would like to start off with Eric Pershman. As a former staff person, Eric was on the Park and Rec board, I think back then is what it was called. I would like to say that I have, not only from those many years ago, having worked with him in that capacity, but also listening to what he had to say tonight, that I have found him to be gracious and humble and incredibly honest. I've also found him to be very analytical, and he is very calm and willing to delve in, and has a really great presence and is well-spoken when it comes to working with issues. He's a great listener, and again, with that attention to detail of being very able to analyze through a situation, I have found his work in the past with the community to be very commendable. I would also say Joy McKnight. I know that you've been with the Planning Commission for many, many years, and that you have worked very hard in that role, and it has been something that you have put your heart and time into. I will say for council that some of the time commitments that she was very honest with us about, I think, are something to consider. We do have other appointments on council that we have for liaisons to different committees, and I think it's important that our next council person would be able to fulfill those as well. I want to say something nice about everyone here because everyone is so wonderful. I think that I will step back and have those as the two that I'll make my first comments about, and let the other members have a chance.
Certainly. I recommend Eric Pershman, and there's others too that I recommend. When Eric was on the Planning Commission, I was very new to speaking up as a resident, and I spoke up at public hearings for what was conditional use permit issues, bus shed, that. But I just do remember him being very calm and articulate, and being new to learning how to voice my concerns, and just really having to be educated on the process. I thought he was very good at that role, and I appreciate that he would bring the perspective of his years of experience on the park and the Planning Commission. Those are just some notes I made to kind of highlight. Another one is Brian Thompson. I really like his idea of being concerned about the schools being a centerpiece, and that his eyes and ears as a district employee for as many years, could bring something that we don't currently have. He also mentioned in some of his answers listening to people in the community. I think he has a good grasp of the role is a lot of balancing what's right for the residents and what's right for the city. To me, it just resonated, his use of the word relationships when he's talking as a teacher and just developing relationships in the community, I think would bring good things to the council. Those are some things to highlight. Additionally, Joy McKnight, I just see a lot of great experience with the 19 years in the Planning Commission, and that then there wouldn't be a void on how did they used to do things, or why was this decision made, just having that historical knowledge. I know there was, challenges, years with bluffs and ordinances, but I think she's very well versed on ordinances. I've been to many meetings that she's chaired, and she definitely does her research, reads the packets. So those are yet different and additional things that she as a candidate would bring forward. And I went with 4, so it was hard, but I did a top 4. Ian Hardy, I like that perspective of the 2 things, IT background and a city employee. Just in our packet, we had the information that was sent, whether it was an email or resume. And I understand it's a larger city than what Carver is, but I think that could benefit us as we grow, just that background of the IT and the city. That's where I landed.
Thank you. Glenn, you want to go?
Sure. I just want to start out with, I was impressed with all the candidates. Everybody that came in made a great case for themselves. It's tough coming up in front of a group of counselors and trying to make a case on why you should be sitting up here and not out there. It's unique because we have 2 people who were in your position before. And it was, from my recollection, a very tough decision for the mayor and the rest of the council. We had a lot of great candidates that night too. But public service is, it's service. And for teachers and for people that are working for other cities and have planning commission experience, and people that just want to really get involved in the community, it's a time commitment that we all appreciate and respect, that you coming forward and offering that you will give your time to help this community in the best way possible. I've narrowed it down to my top 3. Charles and Eric and Joy. We're looking at that for, if you have any experience in planning, you can get up to speed that much quicker with everything because you will know who to go to in the city. Getting up to speed on where we're at with traffic with the levy, with the new developments coming in. Getting up to speed it's critical. And there's a lot of important things that are coming down the pike, and those are in what order, doesn't matter, but those are my top 3.
Thank you. I too would like to echo the same sentiments that have been said a bunch of times. Thank you all for applying. Thank you all for sticking your neck out there. Thank you all for coming tonight and sitting in what's a really nerve-wracking situation where you're speaking to us, but also everybody who's watching online, and you're aware of that, and that's in your head, so I appreciate you applying for this appointment. I also want to echo win, lose, or draw tonight, probably lose or draw tonight. I hope that, just by doing the math, there are 7 folks who will not be appointed tonight. I hope that each and every one of you have your application in for a commission by the end of the week. The application deadline is Friday, so I would encourage you all very, very strongly to apply. That said, I think where I'm coming from is this is a 2-year term. This is a shortened period to get up to speed. It's a really short runway for these folks on what is essentially a 2 to 4 year learning curve. So I think I am coming from the perspective of folks who have been involved and who know what's going on in the city and with city government. So my top 3, in no particular order, are Eric, Joy, and Ian. Eric and I were on the Planning Commission together, and he chaired the meeting where the Carver Crossing development came in front of us and where we had our public hearing for that. That was not an easy meeting for any of us who were sitting up there, and especially the chair. And Eric did such an amazing job remaining calm, cool, and collected, and making sure that everyone was heard at the same time. He also has the history with the city from the Planning Commission and knows what's going on. Joy, month after month, or week after week, as it has been this year with as frequently as the Planning Commission has met, has continually wowed my socks off. I know that Joy not only will have read her packet, but will have taken a deep dive into the details. And she asks questions, and she remembers things from 20 years ago like it was yesterday. So I've always been really impressed by her level of preparation, her ferocity in asking questions, and just her general awareness of what's going on. And then I like Ian with his level of involvement. We have seen him at the comprehensive planning meetings. I know that he has participated. We've had some talks a while back, and I know that you know what's going on with the city. I also like your city government background and know what's going on with the city and procedural, because that's not always intuitive or easy to understand or get your arms around. So those are my top 3, and that's where I'm coming from. I think, let's see, it looks like, according to my calculations, Eric was on all 4, Eric and Joy were both on all 4 of our lists. Glenn had Charles, Lori had Brian, and then Ian was on both Lori and my lists. So, I don't know if you guys want to go process of elimination and talk about Eric and Joy, because those seem to be the 2 that we can all agree on. Okay.
If it's, our top, we took, 5 people and turned it into, or
8.
8 people, turned it into 4, turned it into 2. Is my math right?
Close enough. We'll just go with that. Again, I would like to advocate for Eric Pershman. I think we could not possibly go wrong with him or Joy. I do, again, like I said, appreciate the forthcoming of possible time constraints. You both have done an amazing job for the city over the many years together. I'm sorry, not together, but both working at the same time for the city. So I would like to advocate for Eric Pershman for the position of city council member.
Go ahead, Lori.
I'm honestly torn.
I know.
Yeah, but definitely I can see going from the 8 to the 2. I'm in agreement with that. Eric Pershman and Joy McKnight. trying to think like, okay, are we more trying to like bring in expertise that we don't have? Are we more looking for someone that has the work experience or the role experience? Somebody that shows they'll balance doing what's right for the residents and what's right for the city. It would just, who would most of our residents vote for? And I know that's not,
Speculate that.
yeah, we
So,
can't
yeah, so
speculate
that's
that.
kind of the
That's our role, is to appoint someone. Yeah, I guess I'd like to hear more about being the newest one here and not having as much experience working with the two individuals when they have had responsibilities at commissioner levels. Kind of what makes one a stronger candidate would help me.
So, if I may, I don't necessarily see I'm not sure that that's the intention tonight. I think you kind of have to make this decision
Right.
for your own based on how
Got it.
everybody interviewed and the information that's been put forth in front of us. I think by process of elimination, right now at this point, we are looking at Eric and Joy, in that we all gave them, they received votes from all four of us, and they're kind of the two that we've narrowed it down to now. So if you want, we can kind of continue to.
Can we do that,
down
please?
while you deliberate. Yep.
I'm just looking for the organizational list that we did last week
Oh,
of
Committees?
commissions, yes.
I think what
There
was
it is.
left was
There it
the
is.
business council and the fire board.
There was, yeah, Business Council, Fire Board, I thought there was there anything else that needed to be filled, Brent, that you can think of?
No, and it's the council's prerogative to appoint anybody, but the ones that you didn't fill are the fire board, and they meet twice a year, typically in the spring and the fall. And then the Carver Business Council meets the third Friday of the month at 8 a.m.
Thank you. I just found it. It is. Seeing as I haven't been the liaison to the planning commission yet, until
You're gonna love it.
February.
You're gonna love it.
I know Eric and Joy in passing. But what my gut tells me to do is to nominate Joy McKnight for the position. And a lot of it, I mean, Eric in his own words recommended Joy for the position. And I think that goes a long way in my book. It's not that I take anything away from you, Eric, but just making that statement says, wow, that must make Joy that much more of a, I put her on a little bit of a pedestal just because of that statement. And that spoke volumes to me.
I'm happy to go if you want.
No, I looked a little bit more at my notes from the interview questions, and things that really stuck out was Joy referencing the uniqueness of our city, the life cycle housing, and just having seen her in action, she's who I would put as the first candidate, would be Joy McKnight.
I will agree with both Glenn and Lori. My first choice would be Joy McKnight. I appreciate your honesty. I certainly understand having a job where travel is involved, and rejiggering schedules to make trips work so that you're not traveling on the first or third Mondays of the month. It can be done. I also realize that meetings get missed. That could happen to any one of us. I've been just really, really impressed by Joy's attention to detail and her doing her homework. And, you know, as one of the candidates said, reading the packets is so key. It becomes so obvious up here if you haven't read your packet, and I know that Joy will read every single word of every single packet. That's where I'm coming from, and having a little bit more familiarity with Joy versus Eric. And again, Eric, you're right up there. You're a super strong candidate. I don't want to take anything away from you, so thank you. But my vote goes to Joy. So,
Well, I'll make a motion to appoint Joy McKnight to the city council position vacancy.
I'll second.
we have a motion from Councilmember Henry and a second from Councilmember Sayer. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Congratulations, Joy. All right. All we have to do is adjourn this meeting.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Yes,
Thank you, everyone. We have lots of other commission openings.